I just remember thinking, I can sit next to this man and just feel peaceful, and I could sit next to him for the rest of my life.
But years later, Jamie's conviction was replaced with a sense of doubt.
And I guess over the years, so I've been married 23 years now. Over the years, we had children, and I just had this growing sense that I've married the wrong person, actually. I just started to feel like my marriage was more of a life sentence.
It was a feeling she couldn't ignore.
I'd been thinking, how can I get out of this misery or this miserable relationship? Even though I'd said the fence was comfortable, it was starting to become unbearable.
And then one night, her husband laid it all on the line.
He said, if you want to leave, just feel free to leave. You're free. But if you're going to leave, leave soon, because I don't want to grow old alone and I want to find someone else to live my life with, is what he said.
And that's when Jamie realized.
I knew I had a decision. I knew I had to get off the fence.
My guest Jamie wasn't in love with her husband anymore and felt trapped by her mistake in marrying him until she read a book that gave her a new perspective and she made some changes. Now, today, she says her marriage is just easy, loving, connected, peaceful, fun, happy, and safe. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Jamie, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Hi, Laura. It's so good to be here too. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So glad you're on. So I love to hear about the bad old days for some reason. So tell us about what was going wrong in the bad old days.
I feel like the worst of the bad old days actually were after I found the skills, but I'll get to that. So prior to that, just as a brief background, I met and married my husband at Bible college and got married when I was 21 and he was 27. So because we were living on campus at Bible college, it was a challenging environment even back then to get to know someone. But I just remember we went for a walk one day and sat on a grassy hill looking out over the river, and we didn't even talk. We didn't even need to talk. I just remember thinking, I can sit next to this man and just feel peaceful, and I could sit next to him for the rest of my life and I don't have to talk even. Like I'm quite a chatterbox. So I felt like, he's the one. I felt drawn to him and safe. And so I knew it was right. But then because of the environment we were in, I think there was a lot of pressure from staff and other people on this campus for us to get married. And I didn't realize quite how much he was being pressured to propose to me. And it really sent him sort of running in the other direction. And so it was quite tumultuous even back then. I was getting mixed messages from him, and so it was a bit even of a bumpy start right back then, but I knew he was a good man and I knew I made a good decision. But then we got married. And I guess over the years, so I've been married 23 years now. Over the years, we had children, and I just had this growing sense that I've married the wrong person, actually. I just started to feel like my marriage was more of a life sentence because of my faith and, just my values. I didn't feel like divorce was ever an option for me. I know it is for some people, and I don't impose that on anyone else, but for me, it just didn't feel like an option. And so that just left me feeling resigned to, okay, I'm stuck being miserable. And it wasn't always miserable, obviously, as you know, like, it's human nature to have ups and downs. But guess over the years, I just gathered all this evidence. It started obviously with that thought, maybe I've married the wrong person, because why is this so hard? And then I guess now looking back that I know the skills, I can see that I was finding what I was looking for. And I just kept gathering evidence that, I'd made a mistake. And so then I just felt completely trapped. Like I just thought, I've made this decision, I have to live with it. And I did kind of accept that. I didn't know how else to proceed, I guess, other than just, this is what it is. I'll try and make the best of it. And we went along okay for a while, but then yeah, it kind of got harder and harder. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I ended up on the fence at some point, like of feeling like I'm not really fully in this, but I'm not willing to get out of it. And I know like a lot of people say being on the fence, or you hear being on the fence in a relationship is really uncomfortable, but it wasn't like that for me. Actually, I felt like it was more comfortable on the fence than either other option. So than being fully in my relationship where I felt like I just kept getting hurt and let down and disappointed all the time and not knowing what to do with that. And then the other option felt just like not an option. So that wasn't comfortable either. So actually the fence became my comfortable and safe place where I felt like I could function enough. I'd accepted I wouldn't be happy. Yeah, but it was where I was. So yeah, that was kind of what was going on. Yeah.
Awful. Yeah. So it's till death do us part. That's going to be a long time. And so,
Yeah.
and it was hurtful to engage. So the fence actually felt kind of protective.
Yeah.
It's safe because you're a little bit away. So, it's less heartbreaking every day. It's like just kind of setting your expectations to extremely low, it sounds like.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
actually right. Yeah, you're right. And even then I got disappointed, of course.
yeah, there really is no way. The fence is kind of an illusion in a way, I guess, right? There really is no sitting on the fence. You're just there tolerating
Yeah,
and hurting
tolerating.
and hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
So, and then he is just kind of, yeah, he's continuing to let you down. And, what did you try? Did you try to fix it?
Oh yeah, like I read so many relationship books and I listened to podcasts, not yours yet. I hadn't found you yet, but I felt like all the books, this is such a common story. I've heard it in so many women's stories, but they all require him to do something as well. And I just couldn't get him to. And that hurt me even more because I thought, if you really love me, like, why won't you make an effort? But I didn't realize like all my energy and expectations were preceding me and he just felt like he couldn't win. And I feel like it really all came to a head. So, yeah, so there's a bit more probably to the background story. Are you happy for me to
Sure.
go
Yeah.
through it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we worked as missionaries on a remote island of Indonesia. We were volunteering and doing aid and development work for years. And that was actually really tough as well. It was very rewarding. Like it felt like we were both pulling together, but there was tough things that happened. Yeah, we were hungry a lot. We lived under an active volcano, so we had ash pouring on us and it would rumble and earthquakes, and we got capsized out of a boat in the ocean with our 3 little children. We fled that Japanese tsunami, which wasn't a big deal on our island, but we didn't know it wasn't going to be a big deal because we'd seen the footage from Japan. So there was a lot of quite big events, and I guess we were kind of in survival mode in some ways, but what that meant was we really had to pull as a team in that environment. Like felt like us against the world and all of this stuff that was happening to us. And so we were doing okay. Like that we went back and forth from Indonesia over the years, like due to visas and things. And the first couple of times we moved there, I found really challenging and felt really depressed just because the lifestyle was so difficult. Like it was very poor and we lived like the locals, and then I ended up having a miscarriage over there, and they did a D&C on me with dirty instruments that they just used on someone with HIV, and I had no anesthetic, and so hard stuff really happened. But we came back and had our last baby in Australia, and then went back over when she was about 1. And actually that time round felt better. Like I felt like I knew what to expect, and we settled in, and my husband had worked really hard to build us a house. And so I just started to feel content and like things were going well. And then all of a sudden we lost our visa due to an admin error. that country runs very differently to our countries. And I didn't know they were expecting or wanting some sort of bribe money, I guess, to renew the visa. We didn't realise that. We just lost it. And so we had 2 days to pack up our whole life and get out of the country. And so we lost our house and all our belongings, and we landed back in Australia now with 4 little kids with nowhere to live, going, what just happened? And I feel like that was the real catalyst, because we lost our home and our belongings, but we lost our vision, our shared vision for our future. Like, we'd really planned to be there long term. My husband was working through a local, like a TAFE college. I don't know if you have TAFE in America, but it's like practical training college. So he was teaching the locals agriculture, and the idea was to model sustainable agriculture for them to sort of improve their options in life. And
you had a mission together.
Yeah, we did. And I'm a nurse, and so I was doing medical care, and it was hard, but we were loving it. And then we suddenly just lost all of that. So we ended up back in Australia at the Bible college that we'd met at. They'd invited us back. They said, just come and stay here until you figure out what's next. And they ended up inviting us onto staff to run the farm. And but I think for me, before that, I guess I had been quite surrendered, like just our lifestyle required that of us, to be quite surrendered. We had some support from our local church, but we didn't have a lot of money coming in. We were volunteering. So I had learned to live like that, but all of a sudden I must have hit my capacity for surrender. And I just felt so vulnerable, and I thought, I never want to be in this situation again where I did have somewhere to live. I was never out on the street, but I felt very vulnerable to have lost everything so suddenly. And I thought, I'm never going to let myself and my children be in that situation again. And so I went back to university and trained to be a midwife. And I feel like that was sort of the beginning of the real bad old days for our relationship, because suddenly, because we lived on this campus, I had to volunteer full-time on the campus because that was an exchange for us to live there, as my husband did too. So I was working on the campus. I was studying at university. I had to pick up paid work to help support us. And I had 4 little children. I was breastfeeding the youngest. It was a lot. It was a lot.
I'm tired just hearing about that. Yeah. So much.
And I mean, awesome. I was struggling, and my husband was also really struggling, and I felt like I wasn't, looking back, I think he's even said to me, I just felt like you weren't there for me. And I felt the same about him, because I think we were just both in survival mode maybe, and dealing with the change in our own ways. And I felt like, well, he's a big man, he can look after himself. But, I guess he wanted and needed, I guess we'd always wanted to pull together. We were a team. We were a really good team, and suddenly we weren't. And I could sense him withdrawing, and he was angry, and understandably, I can look back and see understandably, but at the time I took it really personally and just kept feeling hurt, and the distance between us just grew and grew. And I think that's when I hopped up on the fence, really. Like, I just thought, this hurts too much. And we both felt let down by each other. And so I just hopped up on my fence and threw myself into work. And I think I got a lot of satisfaction from I found my value in my work. We eventually left the Bible College campus and bought a house and got on with, in inverted commas, normal life. But I still kept carrying that burden that I've got to provide. Even though my husband was working now too, I still felt too scared. I just wanted to make sure I always had some money in my account and we wouldn't lose our house. And so we just really grew apart. And then I think those negative thoughts in my head just grew and grew. Like, I've married the wrong person. Like, I feel like he just loves me for my body and he's not interested in me. And I know now, like, he said to me many times, like, physical intimacy is how he feels close and connected to me. And I guess when he sensed that emotional connection was missing. He's trying to get closer to me, and I'm thinking, well, there's no emotional connection here, so how can you just want physical intimacy? Like
he's just
we
using
were
you.
just missing each other. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But that can feel really bad when you think when you don't feel the emotional connection and he's trying to find it with a physical connection. That can feel awful.
Yeah, it did. I just felt like I was being used, and yeah, we just kept going round and round and not getting anywhere. And so I just distanced further and stopped caring, really. Like I just felt like, well, we'll just live together and raise the kids together, but try and kind of live our own lives because that was easier. So I got really involved in work. I'm a home birth midwife now, and so I've been working on call 24/7. I was the only one in my city qualified to offer private midwifery and home birth for the last 6 years or so. There's 2 more now, but there wasn't. And so I felt a lot of pressure from that too. I never could have a break, never felt like I could have a break because women always needed me and there was no one ever to cover for me. And so that put a lot of strain on our relationship too, because these women were paying me. And so, of course, I kind of naturally prioritized them. And if they needed me, I jumped. I was on edge all the time in fight or flight, like day or night. When are they going to need me? And of course, my husband and my children just got the leftovers of me for years. So that didn't help either, really. So, yeah.
Stressful too. It just sounds
Yeah,
really
it was.
hard.
It did a real number on my health and my nervous system. And I'm still healing now, actually. Like I still am healing now. And now that I'm not in that situation all the time, I can just see, wow, how did I do that for so long? But you just do, I guess. So yeah, we then moved house again out to the country to have a bit more land and space. And I just remember being so we had a house in town and then we bought this other one, and the plan was to either rent the one out in town or sell it. And we decided to rent it initially because actually I wanted an escape route. Like I felt like it was pretty bad, I think, and I just thought I need another place to live. This is me still trying to protect myself and make sure I'm not homeless.
Yeah, from that trauma of losing your home.
Yeah.
Very understandable. So, yeah.
So I just wanted to hold on to that house as well in case it didn't work out in the new one, and then I could at least live there. I still didn't feel like divorce was an option, but I just wanted a bolt hole maybe. I don't know. I laugh about it now, but it was really big, strong thoughts and feelings at the time. And we did rent it out for a while, and we had the worst tenants who did so much damage to the house and had lied on their references. And in the end, like, that was very stressful in itself. So we did sell that house. But I remember when we were moving into this one in the country, I was starting to unpack, and I guess I was kind of, as I've just said, like thinking, how can I get out of this misery? And I think I was actually really hoping that my husband would choose to, like, he would take the decision out of my hands and he would choose to leave, because I didn't feel like I could make that decision, even though that was kind of what I really wanted. And I wouldn't say we had big fights or blow-ups. Like I would have said at the time that our home was fairly calm, but it really wasn't. Like, it was so volatile, and I didn't know how much my kids would have sensed that. Like, just that vibe that when you're really upset with each other comes off. Like, I'm so aware of it now, but I wasn't aware of it then, and I thought we'd hidden it pretty well. But I was hanging up some curtains, and my youngest daughter, I think she was 9 or 10, just said out of the blue, "Are you getting a divorce?" And it really shook me. Like, she's very intuitive. She always has been. And I felt like she's a bit of a mind reader. And I'd been wanting a divorce. I'd been thinking, how can I get out of this misery or this miserable relationship? Even though I'd said the fence was comfortable, it was starting to become unbearable eventually. That probably is what happens. And I don't know where that came from. I'm still not sure, but she just asked me and I just said to her, oh, no, of course not. But it really shook me up. And then I was in our room and I was starting to unpack, and there was our wedding photo that I'd always taken with us to Indonesia, wherever we live. We moved 27 times. So always took this photo, and I looked at it and I didn't even want to hang it up. I felt like such a hypocrite hanging it up and thought, you know, but I just decided to, as an act of hope, I guess, like it was like my last ditch act of can something change? And also maybe to reassure my daughter. It was the only picture I put up in the whole house, actually. Oh, it's this one behind me. It's up on the wall. Yeah.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess that was when it got pretty dark, and like in terms of the bad old days, and I was still searching. I'd had a colleague, I really didn't talk much about my relationship with others. I had always had some sense of respect for my husband, that it's not fair for me to talk about him to others when he has his side of the story and he's not there to share it. So I'd kept most of this pain to myself, but I did share with 3 trusted people, and they all unfortunately confirmed that I was a victim and that I was in a bad situation and that I should leave. And in fact, one of them just said to me, please don't tell me this again, because I feel like you can't tell me what's going on again. I don't want to know this. I would feel obligated to act on it. And so that just definitely fed my sense of I'm a victim here. Like, I really fully embodied that victim role. And one of my colleagues lent me this book when I shared with her. She was an older, wiser woman, and she meant really well, and I'm grateful for how she tried to support me. But she basically said, this book will tell you how, if you're on the fence and you're not sure, stay or leave, this book, by the end of it, will help you know, yep, stay or leave. And I thought, yes, that is the book I need, because I was so confused by then. I really wanted to leave. I didn't feel like I loved my husband anymore. In fact, I felt like I hated him most of the time. But I didn't feel like I had the courage, or I thought, can I even leave? And I still felt like I couldn't. So I read this book full of hope, and I was still, Laura, at the end, I was still just as confused as ever. It didn't deliver on what it promised. Like I could fully see myself in both scenarios, and the questions I answered, I could tick both sides. I just couldn't get any clarity. And so I just felt so hopeless and helpless. Really disempowered, like the opposite of an empowered wife. And so it all just came to a head one night. Like we went for a walk. We've got a really long driveway because we're out in the bush, and we went for a walk and just had a big fight. Like I said, I don't like fighting. I don't like conflict. It wasn't my go-to, but it all came about because I'd started seeing a Christian counsellor. My husband wasn't interested in coming, so I went by myself. And she basically told me to withhold physical intimacy from my husband until he met my emotional needs first. I know. And I was just so desperate that I kind of had just started trying that out, and he was not happy. I think that's probably why we went for a walk, and so we could be away from the kids and talk about it. And so it just was this huge blow up, and we were actually kind of yelling at each other in the dark, in the bush, with just the birds and the wallabies to hear. But it was the real breakdown before the breakthrough, because we finally just felt free to get honest, I think, with each other. We really honestly said what we felt. And I'm so quite amazed at my husband because I feel like he heard my pain and my misery in amongst all the big feelings, which often we would just be defensive with each other and defending against each other. But somehow he heard how miserable I was. And he actually just said to me, Jay, I love you and I want to grow old with you, but I don't want that if you don't want that, if you're miserable, and I'm not willing to continue on like this. So he said, the decision is yours. He said, if you want to leave, just feel free to leave. You're free. But if you're going to leave, leave soon because I don't want to grow old alone and I want to find someone else to live my life with, is what he said. So,
Whoa.
yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, it's kind of shocking in a way. Did it shock you?
It did, but it was the shock I needed. And I really sensed it wasn't an ultimatum. It might sound like that when I retell it, but I really sensed his generosity in that. And I actually felt like he heard and saw what I was longing for. And he was setting me free, which I didn't feel free. I'd felt trapped for so long. And so it was the shock I needed. Like I think I said before, I was sort of hoping he would make the decision, and I guess he really did in a way. He brought it to a head, and just left the ball in my court. And honestly, I did. I felt free to choose. I felt like I had the choice to leave, and so I spent a good couple of weeks seriously considering it, like really considering it. And I suddenly realized, like I really thought through the practicalities of what that would look like. And I realized I actually don't want this. Like I don't want to be miserable. But when I look back at me as a teenager or a little girl, I just thought, how did I get here? I never thought I would be the one in a miserable marriage feeling bitter and resentful, and I just thought, who am I and how did I get to this place? This is not what I want. I want to be happily married. And so even though I didn't feel like I loved him at the time, I mean, I did. There was something there I still loved, but I didn't feel in love with him, definitely. But I somehow got in touch with that vision of my heart as a little girl that I wanted to be happily married. I didn't want to be divorced and alone. And so I knew I had a decision. I knew I had to get off the fence. And so, yeah, so I did. So, yeah, that was kind of, yeah. And then, yeah. So I don't know if you want, sorry.
Yeah. Well, how did you get off the fence? Like, wait, okay. So really, so you get there's some relief in a way. He's like, you can go, you're free.
Yeah.
And this frees up years of you thinking, oh, I wish I could, but I know I can't. So I'm just going to have to suffer. And then when you really examine, when you really try on the decision of leaving, you realize that's not how I envision myself. That's not what I want in life. And so now, the change so far is just you deciding, no, I want my marriage, I want my family to stay together. Yeah. So, and so you're calling it getting off the fence.
Mm.
And so what did you do?
Yeah, well, I made the decision. And actually it was quite kind of challenging because I didn't feel like I jumped off the fence into his open arms. I felt like he was sort of looking the other way because I think maybe to protect himself, he was withdrawn as well. He knew I'm deciding, am I staying or leaving? He didn't know what I was going to come out with. And so he really did withdraw. So I sensed that, and that was really hard because now that I was hopping off the fence, my heart was now softer towards him, but also much more vulnerable to being hurt and the pain of feeling rejected and so he's now busy just trying to keep busy with his life to kind of protect and guard himself. And I think he said to me later, I just decided to get on with my life. So he was going out and hanging out with friends and busy with activities. And I started to feel jealous. My feelings were very mixed, but I started to feel really kind of jealous of all the time and attention he was giving to other people. And I thought, and I was so hurt because I thought, I'm finally off the fence and making an effort and he doesn't seem to care now. We were just, our timing was all out. Hey, it was I don't know, you could even call it a dance. Like we weren't too good. And so that was what led me to finding you actually, Laura. Like I realized I had this sense of jealousy and I thought, well, I guess I'd always thought jealousy was wrong. But I started to question, I thought, well, maybe jealousy is right and justified in certain circumstances. And so I just Googled, is jealousy wrong? And I don't even remember what article, but one of your articles came up, a blog or something. And I read it and thought, I just knew straight away, this is a different voice from all the other things I'd looked for help in books. And I just sensed something. I couldn't even put my finger on it, but I wanted to know more. Like your whole approach was so different. And I started to just this tiny glimmer of hope that maybe there's something here. And that's what led me to finding the Empowered Wife book. So I read that and then the Surrendered Wife and then listened to the podcast. And I really started to think, okay, I loved it because it didn't come down to him having to do anything. And then like being disappointed that he wasn't willing to. I could just do this. So yeah, so that was kind of how I found you and how I hopped off the fence but it got a lot worse after that. Yeah.
Oh no. You're already so miserable. So it's hard. So you got a glimmer of hope and you are decided, you're not undecided anymore. And you have a glimmer of hope and he is just kind of somewhere else living his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you do?
Well, I tried out some of the skills. I think I tried out like a smile campaign and expressing gratitude. I felt like they were both really concrete things I could do. I don't know if I heard it in your book or in a podcast, but that image of a dog, you know, when you come home and the dog comes to the door wagging its tail and it's just always happy to see you. And I just thought, gosh, like I tried to put myself in my husband's shoes and I thought, I just want to try to smile at him and feel happy to see him. Even though I didn't have those feelings, Laura, I still didn't really have a lot of those feelings, but I decided to just act. It's really leaning on the skills. And gratitude was quite powerful for me because I felt like it had to be genuine. So I was having to be on the lookout for things to be grateful for. And that changed my heart because once I started deliberately thanking him for things, I actually started to feel thankful and grateful. So that went well, like the smile campaign and the gratitude. He really received that well. And I noticed a bit of a softening in him. I think I used duct tape and I hear you. Like I think we went on walks more and I just tried to listen rather than kind of complain. Or I think I was a real complainer, honestly, without realizing it. So I started to learn then, like what I look for, I find. So gratitude was good. But I also like started chasing him around. That's not one of the skills for anyone that's new to the skills. Like, because now my heart was softening and I was starting to have feelings for him again. He was still very much like guarded. And so my fear and insecurity just grew exponentially. I felt so vulnerable. I felt like he tolerated me, but he was more interested in other people. And that really hurt and triggered me to become very clingy and controlling, actually, which isn't my usual way of showing up or hadn't been for a long time. So I felt like I was just trying so hard and I just wasn't getting back what I felt like I wanted and needed from him. And so I was actually repelling him, really. Yeah.
Yeah. This is so interesting, though, because see, your old mode was on the fence, kind of distant, just keeping your
Yes.
distance. And that felt less vulnerable and
Yes.
therefore like safer.
Yeah.
And then once you made your decision, you're staying in, you felt vulnerable again,
Yeah.
and scared, and this, and you wanted his attention, and you wanted him
Yeah.
to reassure you,
Yes.
and he wasn't doing that. So, and
No.
that's painful. But, and so then that brought up like another form, or a form of control, I guess. Or then
Yeah,
that's when the
it
control
was
kicked in.
definitely. Yes. Yeah, I did. I yeah, I definitely became controlling and clingy, and he's never liked being controlled. I mean, who does? Who likes being controlled? But um,
Yeah. Yeah.
he wasn't
Yeah.
going to tolerate that at all. Like,
Oh,
and so it just kind of got worse and worse. And I guess like I was looking for gratitude. I was looking for evidence of things that I could thank him for and that I was grateful for. But I was also looking for evidence that he wasn't committed to me. Like, because that was what my fear and my big fear and insecurity was, that maybe he's decided he's leaving right when I've decided I'm staying. Um, and so I found that evidence too, because it is true. What you look for, you find. And it just made it very difficult. I'd say he was up on his own fence by now. So then I tried vulnerability, because that's one of the skills, but actually that didn't land well. And I now know why, because I was so clingy and controlling, my vulnerability definitely came across as controlling. I was aware that that was a possibility, and I was trying hard not to do that, but it was just this neediness had just consumed me, and it was just definitely the big vibe I was giving off. And so I even like tried vulnerability, and it just made it worse. Like I got even more hurt from that. And I just then started longing to get back up on the fence. I thought, I'm not sure if this is working. And so looking back, I can see I desperately needed self-care, but I remember reading about self-care and trying to do it. But when I got into what you call needless emotional turmoil, it didn't feel needless, Laura. It felt like just plain old emotional turmoil.
necessary
Yeah,
emotional
necessary
turmoil.
emotional. So I would only try for self-care when I was really worked up in emotional turmoil. And so it just felt like no amount of self-care helped, because I
It's
was
too late.
already completely depleted. I'd spent years prioritizing all my clients at work, and I'm a really good midwife, and I know I gave them really good care, and also prioritizing everyone at home, trying to keep the peace. And I felt like, I remember feeling in the bad days like I was a sponge, and it was just my job in life to absorb all the toxins of everything around me to try and keep things calm, especially in my home. And so I just didn't know what self-care was. I couldn't even list 5 things that would make me happy. Like, it wasn't a thing. So, um, but I had a wonderful coach at the time, and she helped me. She talked about self-care being, when she first learned it, or at times, it being like a big red emergency button. And as a nurse and midwife who had worked in the hospital in the past, I could really relate to that. Like, you can push the big red button. And so that's how I started using self-care. I remember one day I'd been out visiting women all over the place in their homes, and the plan was that I'd drop some lunch off to my husband at work. And I think I rang him to just check in to see if that was okay. And I don't even remember what happened on the phone call, but the feeling I had was that I'd been really fobbed off. I don't think he hung up on me, but he was probably just busy at work. But I took it so personally and recognized, that was one of the first times I really recognized, oh, I need some emergency self-care. And I remembered what my coach had said to me. And so pushed the button. I just cancelled my day. I cancelled all my appointments and said I was unwell, because I was emotionally unwell. And I just didn't even drive to my husband's work. I didn't give him lunch. I had to go home. I drove all the way home and had a bath and read a book and sat. I didn't feel happy after that self-care, but I had nurtured myself, which I hadn't done, I don't know, for a very, very long time. And so that's kind of where it started. And I've grown now. Like, I call self-care my happy habits. Like, I have a whole heap of things and they're just a part of my day and I know how to make myself happy. So,
what are some of your happy
Yeah.
habits?
So, it's winter here at the moment, but we live out in the bush with a great big dam. We call it a lake because there are swans on it, but it actually is just a dam, but it's beautiful. Like, and so I would get up in the morning and stretch in the deck on the sun, like do some Pilates and then go for a cold swim in the dam and then drink a hot cacao in the sun. That was kind of my morning routine. And I love going for a walk in the bush. My dog and my cat come with me on a bushwalk. That makes me happy. Doing handstands and cartwheels on the grass. I discovered I can still do them at 45 years old and that makes me feel happy. So,
I'm impressed.
They're just little things that I've learned how to, and that was the biggest change, like really learning to take responsibility for my happiness. That was what the skills gave me. Like learning to tune in. How do I feel? What do I want? And taking responsibility for that, shedding that victim way of being that I had fully embodied. So, and then another skill I tried was relinquishing control and expressing a pure desire. That was quite early on after I found the skills. You were coming to Australia to run a Cherished for Life here, and I heard that on the podcast. And I thought, I realized I'm tuning into how do I feel and what do I want? And I thought, I really want to go to that. I want to learn more about this. I didn't have a coach at the time. I've jumped around a little bit, but and it was up on the Gold Coast, which my kids have been wanting to go to the Gold Coast for years because there are theme parks there. And my husband's actually from Queensland. We live in Tasmania, but he's from Queensland and hates the Gold Coast. He just thinks it's a rat race and he's never been willing to go there with our kids. And so I thought, there's a conference there. Maybe we could have a family holiday. And the conference happened to fall right on my birthday. And for years, my husband hasn't bought me birthday presents. And looking back, I can see why, because I didn't like what he bought me in the past, or I was disappointed, like I just wasn't pleasable. And so I think he just gave up trying. But that was a big source of pain over the years too, that he just didn't bother with birthdays, Christmases, anniversaries. I came from a family that loved to give gifts. And so anyway, I expressed to him, I'd love to go to this, I think I just said it's a conference for women on how to be better wives. I think I said something like that.
It's a great way to sell it.
Yeah. And I said, I'd love to do that for my birthday. And he actually jumped at it because I think he probably thought, I'm on his paper now, but I think he probably thought, oh, yes, like she's actually told me what she wants. I don't have to think of something.
I know how to make her happy.
Yeah.
I can please her right now.
Yeah. So then I sort of said, I would love, maybe we could all go and the kids could go to the theme parks. And he was like, oh, no, absolutely not. Like, I'm not interested in going. You can go if you want. And I felt really disappointed.
Yes. Yeah.
And in the past, I think I probably would have nagged and pushed. I would have just tried to convince him that this would be a really good thing for our family. Yeah. But I just was learning the skills and I realized that would be quite hypocritical, especially going to a conference that was all about doing this. And so I sat with,
my husband to come and he's here. Yeah.
So I sat with what to do. Like, I had this really strong desire that we would all go together. I thought, well, I could have fun with the kids. My kids are older by now, like late teenagers. And so I knew that we could go together and they'd be fine while I was at the conference. But I really wanted him to come. And so, and there's 6 of us, 4 kids and 2 adults. And so that logistically, if he doesn't come, I only have to hire a 5-seater car. I can have accommodation that's just for 5. If I have the 6th person, I need a big car and it's all more expensive. But I just thought, okay, relinquish control. So I stayed true to my desire. I booked plane tickets and a big car and accommodation as if he was coming.
Oh.
But I just said to him, like, I understand that you don't like Southeast Queensland. You don't have to come. The kids and I are happy to go. And I checked the kids were very happy to come. And then, like, at the last minute, I think just a couple of days before we left, he said, oh, yep, I'll come. And it was a really good lesson for me. He loved it. He had a great time because it was May. It wasn't peak season up there. It was really quiet. It wasn't the rat race he'd anticipated. And at the theme parks, we could go on the rides and we didn't have to line up. And the weather was still warm, way warmer than Tasmania, which is much colder at that time of year. And I went off to the conference and was really happy. And he went and bought me birthday presents at the mall. Like, I just was thinking, what's happened? So I felt like they were my first really big wins with the skills. Like, yes, that was when things started to shift a little bit. And he asked about what was that?
Go ahead. He asked about the conference. Go ahead.
Yeah, he asked about the conference. So I just sort of told him and I loved hearing, honestly, it was so good, Laura, to hear Australian coaches share how the skills worked in their lives. And I guess in this culture, which is similar to American but different, like I just thought, this can work for me. I really, hearing it come from the Aussies and the New Zealand coaches, I thought, this is not just something for people far, far away on the other side of the world. This could be for me too. Oh. And I just shared, I think I just must have looked filled up and I was happy and shared like, I just love learning from these coaches. And my husband said to me, Jay, you'd be a great coach. Like he just planted that seed in me and I'd had that kind of thought myself. I work with women as a midwife and I'm all about woman-centered care, which is not imposing on them what they should have done to them. It's all about giving them information, honouring them as the experts in their life. And it just is so in alignment with these skills and this way of being in coaching. And so I had that thought, but I knew it was super expensive when you convert from US dollars to Australian, and I just didn't even think it was a possibility. But he really got behind me and encouraged me to enroll in coach training and just redrew from our home loan to manage that. So things were starting to change, but it was still like those first months of coach training were still pretty up and down. Like I think he was still on his fence. Like I think he was just waiting to see, was this going to stick? Maybe. And I think I still thought the skills were a formula to fix my marriage, to fix him.
Yeah, to make him.
Yeah, I know that's common.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I started him. So, yeah.
And that energy, that vibe, whatever you want to say, that expectation, we think we're not saying it, but it just emanates off us. And he knew that, like he sensed that, and he was resistant to being pressured to change. I was actually never a woman that kind of married and thought I'll try and change my husband. I've never been like that. And maybe that's why I was so miserable, because I never expected that I could change him or didn't even try. But now that I was I was actually trying to use the skills to change him maybe, or thinking that like it was a formula like 1 + 1 = 2, like this plus this will equal, he should do that. And so there was still a lot of up and down in those early months. Like it was hard. I felt like I was all over the place emotionally, and that would have been very hard for him to live with too, I imagine. And we had this sort of, I started to realize that I had a paper, that I should stay on my own paper. Like that was something I was realizing and trying to get in touch with. And I had a lot of opportunity to practice that because I had this ongoing situation where, like I've wanted a deck on our house out in the country. We've been here for about 3 years and I've wanted a deck on the house for 3 years, and he has 2, but he works in the building industry now. So he has the skills to build it, but on weekends he's tired, and I get that. So he just didn't get around to it or didn't do it. And I stopped asking about it. I'm also not naturally, I wouldn't say I'm a nag, but anytime I even just mentioned it, he heard it as nagging and kind of told me, stop nagging me, I'm tired. And so I just let it go. But then people out here wanted him to go and help with a renovation at their house, and he dropped everything and spent weekends and weekends going over there, helping them. And it was just this ongoing situation that made me very upset and felt very hurt and even a bit betrayed. And so I had this opportunity to keep practicing, staying on my paper. But like you say, what you resist persists. And this persisted over about a year. Like it just kept coming back. Whoa. One job would finish and then
you'd volunteer for something else.
Yeah.
Anything but the deck.
Yeah. And so
awful.
So it was challenging, and so I became quite controlling in that situation. Like I struggled to relinquish control in that. But the couple of times that I did paid off so well. Like it was one of the hardest things I did was to just send him over there with like really relinquish control and say, yeah, I'm happy at home. I've got stuff to do. Have a good time.
Like you approved, even though.
Yeah, which I really didn't at all, for lots of reasons. But it paid off. Like it really softened him when I did that. Like he sort of smiled and he gave me about 7 hugs before he left. He just kept popping back into the house and wanting to hug me. Honestly, it was night and day. I was like, why did I take so long to learn this skill and this lesson? Like I was getting exactly what I wanted by letting go of what I wanted in a way.
Oh, yeah. I know. It's just paradox, isn't it? It's mysterious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, and then I guess like the pinnacle for me, I almost feel like it's the pinnacle of my life, like all this up and down. And then I was still juggling being on call, and I was starting to feel really burnt out by now. I was in the middle of coach training, and my coach had sort of said to me early on, like, for those of you that don't know, when you're in coach training, you also have a Laura Doyle coach that you work with regularly. And she had asked me to sort of think about what my vision for the future might be. And it was such I couldn't even think up what it was. Like I just was still in survival mode every day. But I finally realized I'm feeling really burnt out. And I said to her, I would love to just have a sabbatical. I'd love to take time off midwifery and just be at home. And I'd love to be a coach but it just felt impossible at the time. I thought I can't do that. But once I actually stated that that's what I wanted, I got in touch with that desire. I started to realize how much I needed that. Like I was really struggling. And so I'd been speaking at conferences all over Australia for, probably for the last year, like just trying to promote how great it is to be a midwife here, because I have a really supportive hospital and it's a really nice city to be a home birth midwife in. And I was trying to attract midwives here. And so 2 midwives had contacted me saying they wanted to move down and start working in December. And so I booked in like triple the women I normally would have, so that when they arrive, like I said, I'll care for them while they're pregnant until you arrive so you can walk straight into work, because we all just have our own businesses. And then I think it was around, they were meant to come in December, and I think it might have been September, October, and they contacted me one Saturday morning and said they'd changed their minds and they weren't coming. And I was already like struggling to hang on. I thought, I've just got to hang on till December. And I just burst into tears, and I didn't, I just burst into tears, and my husband was making coffee and he asked what had happened, and I told him, and he said, why don't we go and sit out on the grass in the sun and I'll make you a cuppa. And so I just went and sat next to him, and I just felt like my whole life was still falling apart. Like I didn't know where he was at. My work was just becoming even harder. And we sat there on the grass, and he said to me, out of the blue, he encouraged me, and he said, it's all right, you'll get through. But then he just thanked me. He said, thank you for saving our marriage, Jay. And I was like, where did that come from? And I just felt so loved and seen in that moment. And I knew that he's back. Like we're finally pulling as a team. We're on the same side of the fence. He's off his fence. I'm off my fence. And yeah. And the next, it was 6 months were like so difficult in terms of work, because I didn't feel like I could drop any of these women that I'd taken on. I'd promised them care. And so then I did this like huge load, and I cried pretty much every day saying, I can't do this. And I was fine at work, but I would just be a mess at home. And my husband was just my rock. Like I did lean into self-fulfilling prophecies. I had like things up all over my house, but it was so like physically, it was so challenging, and I was just really burnt out. And he just got me through. Like he just kept saying, you've got this, Jay, you've got this. And like I got through the last birth in the April, and of course 4 women went into labour back to back. So I think I did some ridiculous day, night, like with an hour's nappy. Like it was, anyway, I just thought I can't keep doing this. And then I just did. I fell in a big heap after that. But I was in my sabbatical. I was in my break. I had 6 months off, and I just finished coach training, and but I did. I just kind of fell apart and stayed at home and felt like what just happened. And it's quite interesting because it was in the middle of all of that. I was still invited to speak at conferences, and I was starting a business to mentor midwives, because when I had that last run of difficult births all back to back, I just thought I never want to feel like this again, and no midwife should have to feel like this again. Like midwife means with woman, but who's with the midwives? And so in my break, I started a business called the Midwives Midwife to mentor, coach, support midwives, to be there for them and help them, just in the way I didn't feel like I had. And so I'd been invited to speak at conferences around the country, and I was doing a bit of that, and I was invited to speak at the large national midwifery conference. And my husband stayed home with the kids so that I could go over. And I was awarded Australian Midwife of the Year at that conference in front of hundreds of people. Laura, there were fireworks shooting out of the stage. Like I just couldn't believe it. I don't know how that happened when I felt at my most kind of broken and still like, and I think back and I think I wouldn't have had that without the skills, because I wouldn't have gotten through. Like I would have, because of the skills, I was able to restore that connection and intimacy with my husband, who was my rock and helped me get to that point. Like I felt like he was, that old song, The Wind Beneath My Wings. Like I felt like he had done that, and he's just in the background supporting me, and I'm there all on my own getting all this acknowledgement, but I just knew that it was him as well. And it's come from the skills had sort of led me to this pinnacle point that I could just see how my life could have gone so differently. I could have been divorced, and who knows what would have happened with my business. And so that was kind of the journey of how I found the skills and how they changed my life. And
Wow. What a great story of being on that stage, receiving that award with the fireworks and realizing like you'd gotten there as a team. The very
Yeah,
thing that had gone missing was back. And that even though you were getting the award, uh, his support meant everything.
yeah,
That's how you got there.
absolutely. Yes.
Wow. Oh, beautiful. What a success. Like what a, what an accomplishment, huge accomplishment and then he acknowledged you for saving your marriage. Like he
Yeah.
gives you the
That was
credit.
that was bigger than the midwifery award, honestly. Like I cared, even though that was such a lovely acknowledgement. Like midwives work quietly behind the scenes, often unseen, in the middle of the night. And so it was really, I felt like I wanted to share that award with every midwife in the country. Like it was lovely to have that acknowledgement, but I felt like my big pinnacle was, that moment when he said, "Thank you for saving our marriage." I thought, this is what I wanted. I wanted a happy, connected, easy, fun
There you
marriage.
have it.
Yeah, I do.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And it seemed impossible. It seemed impossible. You really
Yeah.
dreamed of leaving. You only fantasized about divorce because it seemed like you'd be happier. And
Yeah.
because it wasn't possible to have this while you were married to
Yeah.
him.
No, that's right.
Everyone already told you that it wasn't
Yeah.
possible. You should leave.
Yeah.
And you didn't listen.
No, even though I didn't, my feelings were, yeah, that's quite remarkable, isn't it? I really learned that lesson, that the skills weren't about changing him, that they were for me. Like that was, I think, that I only really understood that probably partway through coach training. Like, oh, these are for me. Like these will help me show up how I want to, even if, or even when other people show up in a way that, makes me want to react or feels painful or hurtful. And I think that was probably what changed it for him. Like he sensed I was off his paper. I wasn't controlling him anymore. He saw the changes in me and yeah. So yeah, I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so great. So and would you say he's changed?
I know that's such an interesting thing. I mean, yes, in a way, but no, in a way. Like in the bad old days, I used to say that there were two of him, like two sides to him. Like one side of him I could really love and one side I really hated. Um, and I feel like the potential's still there. Like I don't want to make anyone think that I now have this perfect marriage. Like there is still the same potential in our marriage for it to be miserable as there was back then. Like it's not perfect. Things happen. We're all human. My husband's a human. I'm a human. And sometimes I'm not skilled. And like even on the weekend, I thought, oh, some of that old dance felt like it was coming back, oh no, here we are again. And I was having those same negative thoughts that don't serve me. But the difference is like, I'm different. Like I know what I need to do now to be responsible for my happiness. And I just took myself away from the situation and sat on my swing out in the bush and I tried to think, okay, have I done something disrespectful here that I need to clean up? And I felt like, no, I haven't. And so then I lent into gratitude to try and help change my resentment and that negative. And, I'm sitting on this swing in the bush, which I love. And I wouldn't have had that swing without my husband because it's hanging from a huge tree. And he was the one that managed to get that swing in that tree for me. So, and then I just went and sat on the pontoon that he built out on the lake and watched the swans and did some stretching in the sun and just filled myself up with self-care and tried to think about what his heart message might have been in the bluster and just showed back up, girl of fun and light when I was ready. And so, yeah, he's probably changed, but I think he's still just him. I think like the potential is there for it to go either way, but I've changed. I've definitely changed. Like it was me that changed. So I like myself now much better.
It's so great. It's so nice, right? You sound so empowered, Jamie. Like you sound, like the opposite of the victim that you described yourself feeling
Yeah.
like in the beginning. You know what to do. And, and it sounds like just you swinging and getting grateful. It changed that did change the situation.
Yeah.
You had the power all along.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. It's so impressive, right? It's so amazing to go from where you were to here you are now, not a perfect husband still, not a perfect marriage,
Yeah.
but you're able to make good. You're able to make
Yeah.
good. And that's impacted 6 people's lives pretty directly.
Yeah.
How has this impacted your children, would you say?
Yeah. Like I said, at the time, in the bad old days, I didn't think they were very impacted. But I look back now, one of my sons was very anxious and there was so much tension in the home. And they're intuitive, they're sensitive, they would have felt it. Like there might not have been outright loud fighting, but there was a lack of warmth and affection and kindness. And yeah, like my son doesn't seem anxious anymore. He seems very calm and happy, just seems cheery, and they're all growing up now. Some of our kids are kind of grown up, but still come and go from home a lot. And our youngest is now 13. So yeah, I think it's had a big impact on them. I've got 2 daughters and 2 sons, or we've got 2 daughters and 2 sons. And my oldest daughter, I've shared with her the surrendered single, and my youngest daughter often hears me listening to podcasts in the car. So she's absorbing the skills. And yeah, I think and hope that it's had a positive impact on them. Definitely the home temperature's changed significantly. So yeah.
Wow. Fantastic. And it must feel so good to be able to give them that home court advantage. And also there's a legacy there. You're passing on these skills, these incredible,
Yeah.
that you live, that you are a role model for. They see it in you.
Yeah.
And teaching them the skills other ways too, which is amazing. So I love that. What would you say to someone though who is where you were, where she just does not love him, wants to leave, is not sure if she should leave, on the fence, like a lot of misery, does not see any possibility for it to improve because of, and has maybe like all kinds of validation that she should leave. But she wants what you have now, where her husband is her rock and he goes with the whole family to the Gold Coast and buys her presents, shops for presents on her birthday. And, just is so supportive and where it feels free and easy and safe. What should she do?
Yeah, I would encourage her. I would let her know that she has the ability to turn things around on her own, as in probably without her husband having to do anything. That would be the first thing, because I think that gives so much hope. And then I would strongly encourage her to look into the 6 intimacy skills, like listen to the Empowered Wife book or read it if you love reading like I do, and listen to the podcast and just ask yourself, does this resonate with me? And if it does, then I would encourage her to invest in coaching. I had read the book and listened to the podcast and knew that the skills resonated with me, but I really had so many blind spots and was so kind of crippled by my pain that I personally definitely needed a coach. Like my coach was instrumental in my transformation. She was my safe place when I needed to fall apart. She shared inspiring stories with me that helped me see how the skills were applied in a day-to-day. Like you do that too. Like the book is full of that too. But having a coach who could kind of hone that application into my very current need or challenge for each session was very helpful. She believed in me. She helped me find my own vision and work towards that rather than looking back at all the pain and the problems and thinking I've got to, I think we have a tendency to keep looking back and hold a record of wrongs I had a record of long's a mile long of my poor husband. So yeah, I would encourage her to, if this resonates, like this was very much a key to me, invest in coaching. And it might be a financial stretch, and it was for me too. It was for us. But I would say also, I don't know what price I could put on my own happiness and this sense of empowerment that I have the ability to make myself happy and to choose how I show up. And even if, like, and I've used these skills with, in a work, like, it's not just a formula to fix a marriage. This is to help me show up in all aspects of my life. And so I would encourage her that this is possible for her too. So, yeah.
Well, beautifully said. And I especially appreciate the phrase crippled with pain. That really jumped out at me because I think that is such a thing. Like it hurts so much. It hurts to move this way or that way or to do anything. Yeah. And so it can be such a stuck place. So anyway, thanks for sharing about your experience and what got you here and how invaluable it is. What would you say to Jay? What would you say to Jamie if you could go back? Your husband calls you Jay, so now I'm calling you Jay.
You can call me Jay. I love that. That's what my nearest and dearest call me. So thank you.
Okay. What would you say to Jay if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
Look, I look back on me back then and can see I was doing the best I could with what I had. I am so glad that I did invest in coaching. It's hard for me to look back on that. It was hard for me to even rethink about those bad old days when I was preparing to talk to you. Like, it's nice to leave that behind. But so a couple of things. I recognize that I would advise myself back then to figure out more ways to make myself happy. That was the key for me. It was really hard at the time, and it took me a long time, like I said, to figure out my self-care. So I would tell myself to lean into that more. And I also wish I could have realized earlier that I get to choose my focus, that what I look for I find, and that what I focus on increases. Because I spent so much time focusing on all the pain and my disappointment and growing that, even after I found the skills. Like, I think it even got worse after that. And I remember hearing, like, when I learnt about spouse-fulfilling prophecies and self-fulfilling prophecies, what you call SFPs, like, I didn't like that to start with. That didn't resonate with me because I felt like it was changing the truth. And it took me a long time to understand what was going on there. And I felt like, well, I can't trick myself. I know what the truth is. And the truth is this list of negative things. But I now know, like, you hold up a hand and you describe what you see on one side, and I'm looking at the exact same hand, but I'm seeing fingernails that you don't see. It's the same truth. Once I realized that I have the opportunity to walk around and see that truth from a different angle. That was quite powerful and life-changing for me as well, to change the story I was telling myself in my head, which then was what led to my feelings, which was then what was leading to my behavior. And so that's what I would also tell myself, to lean into that more, that what I focus on increases and that I can choose my focus, because that was probably one of the most powerful tools in how I changed how I show up in my life. So yeah, those two things.
Beautifully said. Like, great wisdom bombs, right? For anybody who's, feeling like this is the way it is. This is the truth. And I appreciate you saying it. Just felt like it wasn't the truth to use spouse-fulfilling prophecies and self-fulfilling prophecies. And then you were able to, find a different perspective that served you better.
Yeah.
And look at you, just all smiley and beaming with joy now. So I love it. And I definitely want to congratulate you because
Oh,
you've done the thing that I think is the most impressive thing in the whole world that I know of, which is to fix your family, to choose your faith, to choose love. And when you could have gone a different way, you could have very easily. You were right on that precipice. And you did the courageous thing. I think it's a hard thing. And it's such a worthwhile thing. So I just want to celebrate you, Jay. This is amazing what you've done. And I'm inspired to get to hear the whole story.
Oh, Laura, thank you so much. You have inspired me so much. And I love sharing that with other women because there's so many women that feel trapped and stuck like I did. I know it. And I'm so grateful that you've been able to put all of this together in such a practical, applicable way that feels doable. Yeah, it's really been life-changing for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this has been amazing. Yeah, I think you have saved a lot of marriages today by sharing this story with us. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. As you say, I'm glad we found each other.
Yes. I'm so glad we found each other.
Yeah. Thank you.
For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.